this is a video looking at how you can use the HTP paints to highlight concrete, clay, and change those up for your outdoor decor, because HTP is exterior grade and holds up beautifully outside, as you'll see in some other pieces here. I had looked for many years for pots like this, and when I found a pair of them in an antique shop here that's a reputable one, they had dirt on them and underneath it looked very white, and I honestly thought somebody had painted them, but I went, at least I have the shape and size pot that I wanted. But after they were power washed to get all the dirt off of them, all the algae and all of that, I realized these are limestone. So I don't want to paint them. I could, I absolutely could, but I don't want to. I want these to age over time with the bits of things that get on them, keep them cleaned up with power washing as needed. But I want to maintain the limestone, because the limestone's not something in these that you find often. So this pair of pots is probably around the 1920s, which is similar to the pots that I grew up with that I loved and hadn't been able to find in my adulthood. So all I want to do to this, because they're such a bright white when you step away from them, I want to just highlight the details on this just enough to let them show up more from a distance. I don't want it heavy. I have a water bottle handy with me to try to get off anything where it's not where I want it, but when you're working with something porous, it's going to seep in and it's not going to want to come off. So you really need to really think about less is more, less is more, less is more. I can always add some more, but it's going to be very difficult for me to get it off of here. So that's what's going to happen with this pot, and we'll try to keep it nice and tight shots for you to be able to see how this is done. I'm going to be using weathered wood, and I'm going to be using very tiny amounts of it. I tested a spot on the back, which is why there's some weathered wood on here right now, just to see how it was going to take against this and whether or not I needed to rethink whether I wanted more on here or not. I'm just barely tapping onto, let's see if I can find it here for you. Okay. On here, I'm using the saran that I've pulled back, because saran underneath these lids keeps your antiquing gels, your paints that are in the small cans, very fresh. They don't dry out. Without it, air can leak in. So I'm going to use the side of my brush. It has very little on it. It's going to look like there's more paint in there as I go on, simply because it's going to push up in the bristles. But I only want to touch the edge of these designs. And it's kind of a diagonal pull on these. It's literally just creating a shadow. It's not creating a really dark line. And a small brush like this is your friend. This one is a 1/2 inch angled art brush. And you can also get these teeny tiny ones like this with the angled bristle in sets at Home Depot. I have the HTP smaller brushes, which I do use, but this brush gives me more control in tight areas, and especially if I am using the antiquing gels. The weathered wood was mixed off camera. You never want to just open any of the paints or the antiquing gels without stirring them. And the stains as well need stirred, but they need to be stirred gently so you're not creating bubbles in the stains. Dipping frequently, getting very small amounts on the brush is your friend. And then you can turn the brush over to get the paint that's on the other side to use it. Sometimes you can grab off the plate, but I could tell by the time my brush was tapping on it that it was not going to be enough. It's hard to see, but it makes a lot of difference in how this design looks. Let's see if I can go rowing like a boat here. The detail here does not show up as well as the detail here does. I could have chosen another color. I could have used verdigris like I used on the chairs that we will have on the patio behind this, or on the entry behind this, but I want this to stay neutral so that no matter what the colors are, you should be able to see that line. It's very light. I'm not trying to get a heavy edge on here. I'm going to continue around just doing this band. Then we're going to come back on and let you see lower areas here and how they are done. this area of this has less distinct raised areas to it, so it's going to take a little bit more care to not get this completely covered. The rings the same way. And as I'm painting, let's see if I can get under here again. Well, yeah, find it. Okay. So what you're seeing when I'm painting, I am not using the front edge tip of these bristles. I'm hitting the brush about a little less than 1/4 of an inch in, because that area there is firm and allows me to make the lines without the bristles splaying out and putting paint where I don't want it. So when I'm working on this, I'm on the side of the brush. I'm not on the tips of the brush at all. And always, always pounce your brush out after you've gotten more when you're using dry brush. And Jim, is there a good front on of this that you've got? All right. This area is much harder than the Grecian design up here because some of the areas are very, very worn. And you don't want to just have gray blobs in there somewhere. To stop for a minute here and highlight the ring. And come in to just bottom. as I am pushing the tips into on this. But I've waited until I have next to nothing left on the brush to highlight the shadows in here. Brushing the grapes is better done when you've got most of the antiquing gel off your brush. The bottom of this, I definitely want to go as light as possible. Because I don't want just smears on here. I just want to capture the top of all of these pleats that are coming out. And I want to get, I'll go back and spin it around and I will get a little bit on that coil right there as well. I don't need for this to perfectly capture all of these lines because it's really easy to get down into the grooves, and you don't want that when you're dry brushing. I just want them to show up a little better. And if you get more, like I just did on your brush, than you really need, just keep pouncing all over dry areas on your plate, because the weathered wood will be drying pretty fast on that plate because there's not much on there. If I had a lot of the weathered wood on my brush, you'd be seeing blobs of paint all over this. That's the whole point behind a dry brush technique, is that you have the least amount of paint possible on your brush so that you can control where it goes. I don't want to go above these peaks because I don't want a streak of the weathered wood in that area. And with the wet spot on my paper towel, I was able to blend out some lines in the groove that I did not want. I'm going to need to do that right here as well. I didn't realize there was more up. On my brush. And now I need to just barely highlight this band that's under here. Mute it down with the wet spot on the cloth for any area that gets too dark. I'm using the fact that there's hardly any weathered wood in this brush at this point, but I can see the difference here. If I pull back, I can do a spin of this. It now has an aged effect. It's got the details show up more, and yet when I put it out, when the sunlight hits this, this is still going to look very bright white when it's outdoors in natural light. The other pot's going to be done exactly the same way. Porous items don't need deglossing, they just need cleaned. This particular pot is solid clay. It has some missing paint up here on the top, but it's been outside for 6 years. This was a mixture of greens that I used, that I mixed to make this, and then I used copper metallic on it to highlight the roping on it. The area where there's any paint missing is where plants have been in this that hung over the side, trapped water, and water will eventually break off paint if it's sitting on it. But after 6 years outside, and I have not cleaned this spring yet, I'm not unhappy with this at all. And these pots have been frequently power washed on the outside when we clean up the patio. No paint's coming off. It's an easy way to make things fit your decor. And we're going to show you here in just a second a concrete pot. The sun right now is really blinding for me, so I'm not going to look up at you guys. But I want you to see this pot. I have 3 of them. They all look exactly like this. The about 4 inches down on the inside and all over the outside got 2 coats of Stonehenge. All that was done, this was just a raw concrete planter. It was just power washed, let dry, then I started painting. No deglossing is needed because it is porous. Then on top of that, I dry brushed Amalfi to bring out all the details on this. So this has now been out for a total of, in just a few weeks, it'll be 6 years. And it's been power washed on the outside. It's not ever been covered. Well, welcome, Kite. I guess it wants in the video. But anyway, you can see there's absolutely no damage to it. The paint's all still fully adhered. It's a really easy way to make things look the way you want them to with HTP paint, which is exterior grade. I hope this has inspired you to do some things with your outdoor pottery and pots. If you have them sitting around that aren't quite the right color, not quite the right look, grab your HTP, what you have left over, and start working on them. Anything that's porous, like clay, stone, concrete, that is not deglossed. It's just cleaned really well. You can power wash it is one of the best ways to do it, or if it's a small pot, just wash it with soap and water. It does not need to be deglossed. If you're using something like plastic or resin, those do need to be deglossed. But then all of the products are exterior grade, so they don't need additional top coat. and they will hold up beautifully. You saw the different pieces, the pots that were in the back that have been painted for the one set of pots that were Stonehenge and Amalfi have been painted for almost 6 years. The green pot was 4 years, and now these are going to be outside, and I'm really happy because I have them the way that I want, the type of pots that I wanted. And it also is just time for a spruce up because we had just had our house painted, and then I repainted our front door and our shutters to come into a more coastal look for us. So anything you want to do is possible with these paints. Just let your creativity flow. It's a pot. It's not like it's the whole room in your house, so it's a way to have some fun and see what you can do and try techniques. Thanks for being here. Please give us a like and subscribe. It really helps us out and costs you nothing.